Welcome to Plan B.
I'm Connie.
And I'm Sherry.
Thanks for joining us today. If you're new to our channel, go ahead and watch our welcome video so you know why we're here, and I hope you enjoy.
Today we are going to be talking about drug court.
So drug court is actually short for drug treatment court program. So it's a minimum of a year. Anything along the way, any extenuating circumstances, sanctions, setbacks, any of that type of stuff, make it longer. They can have the opportunity to restart you at any point. There are 4 phases in drug court, and there are day requirements for each phase, but they can set you back at any time for pretty much anything.
It's December 3rd, so I was at the Haven early this morning, a little less early than planned, but early. I had to go to class. I didn't have to test this morning. And I forgot to turn my paperwork in. It's Monday. I didn't turn my paperwork in, so I just turned it in. It's like 1:45. So I'm going to get community service for that. And she was trying to not give me a cover sheet for my paperwork. Like I'm not already going to get community service for turning it in late, but that's okay. And I have court tomorrow. I'm a little stressed out.
That's a basic what drug court is, so you know what we're talking about when we say that.
And we already talked to you about getting out of jail and into drug court.
And our first day.
Yeah, the first day in drug court. So today we're going to just explain more like what our life was like those first couple of months in drug court. And we're going to start off with that by reminding you that she had a DUI, which meant
no driving. They revoked my license. I could not drive at all. And we live outside of town, away from all of that stuff. There was no walking to anything. So she had to drive me into town every morning. And that started with calling in for a urine screen at 5:30 a.m. You didn't have to test every single day. It was a super randomized system. You had to call every morning and be prepared to be there at 8:30 sharp, ready to pee. If you couldn't pee by 9:30, it's considered a dirty urine. So we had to be ready to pee at 8:30, which means you have to time your peeing. And but that was how the day started.
And for us to get in, it's a 25-minute drive. And then once testing is over,
I had class at 9 o'clock most days, and this was a 3-hour class. It went from 9 to 12:15, and that lasted for months. So we had the class, hours of class, after testing. And then we also had, I say we because she had to be there for all of it.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in class, what did you do?
Very seldom did I drive back home because by the time I would get home, get something going, it was just time to turn around and come back in. So I read a lot in my car. A couple times I would meet friends for coffee while I was waiting while you were at an appointment. So I mostly stayed in town.
So in addition to the classes and the testing, I had to meet with a case manager every week. It's similar to a probation officer, but it's your case manager in drug court. I had to meet with a therapist every week. I had individual therapy every week. That was an hour, as well as the case manager was an hour. On top of that, I had to get 29 hours of either work or community service, or a combination thereof, but we had to get 29 hours. So in the beginning, I was doing lawn work for a church right next door to where we live. That was my community service, and I was also doing some outdoor garden lawn work for my grandparents. So that in the very beginning, that was getting me my hours.
Right.
Shortly after that, because it got cold, I started doing community service at our homeless shelter here in town, and that became what I consistently did for several months.
Right.
And even once I got a job, I wasn't getting enough hours to meet the requirement, so I was having to pad that with community service.
Right. Also, every single week you had to go in front of the judge. And just to describe a little bit what that was like, so every time you went in front of the judge, your case is discussed with your caseworkers and the judge in front of all the other people in drug court.
And every person goes up, they go in order of who's been there the longest. So in the beginning, I had to wait for everybody else in drug court. I was the last one on the docket. So, but yeah, your case manager discusses with you and the judge up there how you've been doing. That judge asks, how have you been doing? So I see there's been this, or whatever he needs to bring up has been made aware of. And then he always asks, is there anything you need to tell me?
Yes.
Every time.
So if there's ever a dirty screening or a relapse or anything like that, the judge will know about it, and then it is
Definitely.
discussed.
Yes, and then he will discuss it with you in court. That's an opportunity for you to come clean about stuff or not and make it worse for yourself. But that was what drug court looked like. So that was every Thursday morning, every single one.
And then once a month was a drug court graduation. So any of the people in drug court that would be graduating that month, it was mandatory that you attend. Everybody has to be.
And that was actually earlier than normal court, and it added at least a half hour to an hour of time to court. During that time, I also was adjusting my meds. I came out of jail on medication, anti-anxiety and antidepressant, and so I started seeing a psychiatrist, and that was somebody I had to meet with every month as well. So that was just one more thing. And in the beginning, I think it was more frequent than that. I saw her a few times, but I was meeting with her every month, and that was just one more thing added to everything else going on. In addition to all of that, I was required to do 90 12-step or community support meetings in 90 days. So I had 90 meetings in 90 days, so we were also going to a community support group every single day. Actually, a few times we were doing 2
a day.
So I actually ended that 90-day period with 95 meetings in 90 days.
So then on into the winter season, when she really couldn't do lawn work type community service, she started working at the homeless shelter more, which the homeless shelter also opened earlier in the morning. So then starting like November, you were there every morning, 6:45. It was still dark.
Yeah. So I was at the homeless shelter crack of dawn, before dawn, every morning, and then I'd be there until I had to go test, and then
I'd pick her up and we'd go test.
And then go to class after testing. Overall, it was extremely exhausting. It was so much. And not only just the adjustment to the schedule was insane, it was a crazy schedule adjustment, but I was in my first several months of sobriety. I was clean for the first time in years. I was not using any drugs, anything to change how I felt, and I was being flooded with emotions that I had no idea how to handle or how to deal with, and my body's way of coping was just shut down. Sleep. Throughout this time period, I slept every chance I got. I was sleeping in the car on the way from here to there, not just in a parked hour time period. We had a lot of weird time gaps where I would end this class and have an hour before my appointment, but it's not enough time to go home. I would sleep through those. I would come home and just crash on the couch in my bed. I would just be asleep. I would fall asleep, lights on, clothes on, shoes on, I was out.
I remember on a good day getting home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm thinking like, oh, it's middle of the day. I've still got plenty of time. I can do the laundry. I wanted to make this or that or just stuff around the house. And we get home, and both of us were just, nope, nothing. There was nothing left. It was exhausting, the schedule and the time, but it was emotionally exhausting.
So emotionally exhausting.
It's November 28th. How's your day?
It's going. I missed the first thing I've missed ever since I've been in drug court. I missed my case manager appointment today. And I feel like death. And I barely made it to my class, and I haven't gotten any community service hours today. And I'm just going to the meeting tonight to stay in a good place, but I'm doing good. I just hurt.
And you weren't the only one. I remember like thinking, why am I exhausted? But I was.
It was a lot for you too.
It was a lot. You were going through a lot and dealing with a lot, and so
were you.
Yeah. So it affected us both, and just the exhaustion of those first few months was crazy.
I actually have a fairly vague memory at this time of just the time in general, just because I was so exhausted all the time. Also, I was adjusting to my new medications. They had been adjusted several times in that time period, and my memory of that whole time is just like kind of dark. I don't remember a whole lot of details and stuff because I was just so exhausted all the time. I was like a walking zombie.
You were.
Part of that was the emotional strain and just schedule exhaustion, being clean for the first time, dealing with feelings for the first time. That was all part of it. And then just and whatever effects the medication had, but I was a zombie walking.
I'm glad I journaled all through that, just because I know I was tired too, but there's parts of like, I'll not remember this in 5 years, and maybe there's already parts of it you've forgotten. Sure enough, there's things that I've written down that you just like, I don't even remember that.
Yeah. So
I'm glad I did that, and that's what's helping us be able to share today. Start.
So one more thing we wanted to talk about is some of the is there was a lot of humorous moments in these first few months, and most of them came from her. We had some blunders.
It was just weird stuff, but I think it was just brain overload. But in those first few months, I did more driving then than I have in the last 5 years, probably.
Yeah.
But I ran so many stop signs.
Lights.
And stop lights.
Lights.
Yes.
There was this one light. It's area of town she's not wasn't very familiar with, and there was this one intersection, but you didn't just do it once. It was like at least 4 times.
I actually made
pull up, stopped, looked left and right, red light. Just make the left. Just not even a right on red. Just, I don't know. Did you think it was a stop sign?
I don't.
Or like,
all I know is I'm going through it and you're like, Mom, that was a red light. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, shoot, was it?
And not only, like, it's a small street, so we didn't like almost die or anything, but just a full-blown red light left turn, just through the whole intersection, just, oh, we're going. Like, what?
I don't know. That happened way too many
At
times.
least 3 or 4 times that I can, like, remember right now.
And then another thing that happened for the first time in my life is I got lost in my own town. Like, not for an hour or anything, but for several minutes, I literally didn't know where I was and how to get back. Another thing is we were having car problems. We had to get jumped, like, 3 times, at least.
At least. Out in the parking lot of where I had class and did therapy and all that, in the parking lot, and you just wait out there for somebody to drive up, be like, can we get a jump? We were carrying jumper cables, because the issue was so bad, it was just all the time.
Finally, my car broke down, and so I was borrowing a car, and then I forgot what car I was driving, and I came out of a store, I think it was Costco, and I couldn't find my car. I couldn't remember what I was driving.
Everywhere
I walked
for that car.
that parking lot so much, and the key remote didn't work, so I couldn't beep it and find lost my car. And then, this was the worst one. I was so embarrassed. I put library books.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
In the post office receptacle, or
the drop box.
A drop box for the post office. Yes,
that's
I was
great.
mortified. So there is a few bloopers like that.
Yeah,
Kind of funny.
Definitely is funny to look back on and add some humor to some rough months.
Thanks for watching. We're glad you're here with us.
If you like what you saw today and you like our videos, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell so you get notified when we make a new video. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. We're PlanB for Mom.
Thanks for watching.
And don't forget to hug your mom.